YouTube, my name is Elizabeth and welcome back to the OwlCrate. Today I am very excited to bring you my very first original tag. I am required by my brother to let you guys know that he helped me come up with some of these questions, so thank you so much, Matthew. You are a jewel. I love you. So basically this is called the alternate endings tag, and it's a really cool, fun way to change the endings or the fate of some of the characters, the plot lines of your favorite books. And I do want to let you guys know that because this is like changing the ending of things, there will be some spoilers. I will put a picture of the book that I am spoiling in the corner of the screen, but for example, if I'm going to be spoiling Winter, I'm obviously going to be spoiling like Cress and Scarlet and Cinder and all the books that came before it, possibly, so just keep that in mind, and when that picture of the book is gone, then I'm done spoiling that specific book. So I'm going to try not to spoil you guys, but this is the alternate endings tag and there's going to be a little bit of spoilers. So they'll make a little bit more sense once you get to the questions, so let's go ahead and get started. Which character do you think should have died? For me, that is Cinder's stepmom in the Lunar Chronicles series. So I honestly think that if Cinder's mom had died of the plague, along with Cinder's stepsister, or even like in replacement of Cinder's stepsister, none of this would have, like, none of the story would have changed, right? Because I don't want to change the story of the Lunar Chronicles. I think that although people died and, you know, it was a little tragic there for a while and it was war, you know, I think that the story went along a really good path. And if Cinder's stepmom had died, nothing would have been different. Like, I hated her so much, and I really think that the things that Cinder's stepmom did to sabotage the storyline, or sabotage Cinder, for example, her evil stepsister could have done that instead. You know what I mean? So I did not like Cinder's stepmom at all, and she totally should have died. Which character do you think should not have died? For me, it's Finnick, and from the Hunger Games series, I cried and cried and cried when Finnick died. Like, it was probably one of the worst character deaths in the history of books for me. And I think that if he had not died, like, he would have been able to have a really big role in creating a new government, you know, because a lot of the tributes for the Hunger Games kind of like went reclusive. You know, Peeta and Katniss, they just didn't want to have anything to do with the capital or creating a new government. And I think Finnick would have been a really good person that said, I went through the Hunger Games and now let's rebuild, and he would have like had just a really great life, and him and his wife and his baby, and it would have been beautiful. And I think that his death didn't do anything for the plot or the characters except for like a shock factor, and it was just really sad. And I think that he could have had a really good life after, what's the last book in the series? Mockingjay. And it just makes me sad even thinking about it. Which couple do you think should not have gotten together? For me, that's gonna have to be Pauline from the Kiss of Deception Remnant Chronicles series. So basically, before the book even starts, Pauline is in love with a man that's in the army, and she gets pregnant with his child, and he promised to come back to her and like marry her and stuff like that, and it just doesn't end that way, right? It doesn't end that way. Obviously, we found out that he's a complete dirtbag, and I felt really bad for Pauline. And again, I don't think that their relationship added anything to the story. Like, Pauline was a strong woman before, I feel like, you know, because she ran away with Leah to help her escape this whole thing, and I feel like her getting pregnant and like totally dumped by this guy that she was in love with did nothing for her as a character and did nothing for the plot line. So I just feel like, I mean, maybe she would have been a less interesting character overall for the story, but it just wasn't necessary, and it broke her heart, and I hated that because I love Pauline. And when we found out that he's a dirtbag and he doesn't want anything to do with her or the baby, it just made me so sad. And again, it had nothing to do with the entire story arc, and I don't think it would have changed anything major. Which characters do you think should have gotten together? And for me, that is totally and completely Neville Longbottom and Luna Lovegood. Like, why? I don't understand. I think J.K. Rowling explained it that like she didn't want everything to be like so perfect and not everyone marries their high school sweetheart. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. But like, why did it have to be them? Why couldn't it have been anyone else. Like, why? They were just like everything. And at the end of the books, where Neville's like, I love Luna and I'm gonna go tell her, and I'm just like, yes, Neville, yes. And I just wanted them to be together so badly. And again, I don't think it would have changed anything for like the 19 years later or any of that stuff. And so I'm just like, I wanted them to be together so badly, and I hate it. Oh my god. Ugh. The next challenge is to create your own ending. It could be an ending for a book that you just didn't like the ending that the book had, or to finish out a book that ended on a cliffhanger. The Giver. The Giver leaves off on the biggest cliffhanger known to man. So Giver basically ends with Jonas with the baby that he's rescued, because they're basically gonna put the baby to death, and he's trying to find safety, and he hears music, and then it just cuts to black, right? The worst ending ever. You have no, like, you have no satisfaction whatsoever. So I'm gonna give Jonas a different ending. Basically the way that I wanted the Giver to end was that Jonas gets to a place of sanctuary with the baby. You know, he finds a different community and he figures out where his community came from. I'm not sure what any of those things are, because I'm just not, you know, I haven't thought this whole thing through, but I just really wanted Jonas to get to a place of safety and raise his baby and grow old and die and not have to deal with anything that the society he came from had, where they were deprived of feelings and colors and just so many things that the community he came from was deprived of. And then they kill like babies and the elderly. It was just horrible. It was horrible. And so I just really was hoping that, you know, Lois Lowry would give us a solid ending as to what happens to Jonas, and I was really wanting it to be that he just got to a place of sanctuary and safety, and for him to grow old and the baby to grow old, and maybe they start families, who knows. Just, I needed a happy ending for Jonas. And again, I'm not very good at this, but please feel free to make up your own ending. If you're good at like making stories and creating stories, and this is just for fun too, like it doesn't have to be exactly going with the storyline or even the series, just have fun with it. Create your own epilogue, right? Create your own, I call them 19 years laters, right? Because the first epilogue that I remember reading was 19 years later from Harry Potter. So anyway, create your own epilogue. So mine is going to be an epilogue for The Black Key by Amy Ewing, which is like, it's called the Lone City series by Amy Ewing, and it had an epilogue, but I kind of really wanted like a better epilogue that kind of like took place farther in the future. So basically, The Black Key ends with a couple of the main characters standing on the wall that surrounds their entire city, right? And no one has left this city for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And they know that on the other side of the wall is ocean, but no one knows what else is out there. No one's been on top of the wall for hundreds of years. So a couple of the characters, and they find out about, you know, how they got there and how the city was founded throughout the series, but basically a couple of the characters are standing on the wall, and in the distance they see ships. And I would freaking love an epilogue or a series explaining or telling of the main characters going on those ships and finding what's out there. Where did they come from? Learning their history. And I think that would be the most epic series of all time, and I need Amy Ewing to write it so badly. The next challenge is Happily Ever After. Who did you want to have their happily ever after? Who did you want them to have a good ending and they just didn't? So for me, that is going to be Captain Everett Hale or General Everett Hale, I don't remember, Everett Hale, who is Winter's father. And so for those of you who are sticking around for all of the spoilers, Everett Hale was married to Queen Lavanna and is the father of Winter in the Lunar Chronicles series. Queen Lavanna forces him to marry her, and then after she's tired of being married to him because she wants to create an heir, or I don't remember why, but she basically has one of her guards kill him, promising to make him the next king, and then she kills the guard after the guard kills her husband. It's a big mess, but basically Everett Hale dies, and it is so sad. And I really feel like Everett Hale could have lived his life, gotten a little old, and lived to see Lavanna die, and gotten his happily ever after. He would have been stuck in this loveless, horrible marriage for a decade or so, but at least he got a happy ending. And again, I don't think it would have changed the vast majority of the series. I think it would have you know, been a good thing. He probably could have helped take Levana down, or, you know, it would have been a good thing. And I would have really liked to see that. Like, Everett Hale's death was a huge part of the series. That was like, and it was one of those wow factor deaths, which I'm not a fan of. And I would have just liked to see something different and more happily ever after for Everett Hale. This last question slash challenge is my favorite. I have called it the multiverse. So basically, you are going to take the ending of one book or series and the beginning of another book or series and combine them and like connect them, right? So again, I'm not very good at this, but I think it's gonna be fun. So I'm going to be connecting the end of the Lunar Chronicles series by Mary E. Pearson, The Beauty of Darkness by Mary E. Pearson. I'm gonna connect the end to the beginning of Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Okay, you ready for this? And again, if this is like for fun, and so if I get a little fact or plot point wrong, it's just for fun, you guys. So don't murder me, but I'm gonna try to connect the two in what I call the multiverse challenge. So basically, the end of Kiss of Deception, we find out that Leah, who has this magical knowing ability, it is thought in the beginning of the series that only firstborn daughters of the king or of the royalty have this knowing magical power, right? We find out throughout the series that it's not just firstborn daughters of the kings that have this. It's a lot of people, and it's a magic that has run through their history or their world for a very, very long time. And so I think that it would be really cool to say that Leah and Rafe, who are together at the end of the story, they get together, they make babies, and this magical ability that at the time is just a knowing, through the course of history, maybe centuries, maybe hundreds of centuries, that magical ability kind of grows and gets more diverse and becomes what is known as the Shadow and Bone series by Leigh Bardugo, where there are multiple different kinds of people who have magic, and it's not just women, it's men, and, you know, lots of different things can happen. So that was kind of like a really loose way to connect the two, you know, but I think that the way that Leah uses her magical knowing ability and the way that the people who have magical abilities in the Shadow and Bone series, they're very similar, and I think that they could definitely be connected, you know, with a bunch of space in between and that magical ability being honed, you know, because at the time, anyone who has that magical ability, except for the first daughters of the king, you know, it's like they had to stay underground, kind of. Like, they're not really allowed to have this magical power. So now that Leah is queen and she has found out that, you know, lots of people have this magical knowing ability, I think that that magical ability can definitely, you know, grow and evolve over time and become stronger and be taught to different people. Or, you know, I think that after hundreds and hundreds of years, that the Kiss of Deception series can turn into something like the Shadow and Bone series. So that's my multiverse question. That's all the questions I have for you guys. So this is the alternate endings challenge slash tag, and I really enjoyed doing it. I'm not that good at making up my own stories and stuff like that, but I think a lot of you guys, you booktubers, can run with it. I have tagged a whole bunch of you down in the description below. If you guys are interested in doing this tag, please do it. And in the meantime, if you guys are interested in watching some more of my videos, you can click right here, and if you would like to subscribe, you can click right here. Check out all the links in the description, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!